Have you ever looked around at people exactly your age, maybe your old classmates or coworkers, and felt a strange disconnect from them? While they seem to easily navigate the carefree milestones of adulthood, you constantly feel a quiet underlying heaviness, as if you have lived multiple lifetimes. You are not necessarily unhappy, but your energy levels, your interests, and your general outlook on life often resemble someone decades older than you. When people call you an old soul, they usually mean it as a compliment, but they do not see the invisible exhaustion that comes with it. This feeling of being older than your chronological age is incredibly common among highly sensitive people, and the psychology behind it is fascinating. Society generally expects people of the same age to share similar energy levels, social desires, and developmental timelines without much variation at all. So when you prefer quiet evenings over loud gatherings or deep conversations over superficial networking, people quickly assume you are simply boring or depressed. They do not understand why you cannot just let go, relax, and act your age like everyone else around you seems to do effortlessly. This misunderstanding creates a quiet sense of isolation, making you wonder if there is something fundamentally broken in your ability to enjoy being young. But feeling older than you are is rarely about being boring. It is usually a psychological adaptation to how you process the world around you. For those with a deeply wired, highly sensitive nervous system, every single interaction, observation, and emotional shift is processed at a much deeper level. This constant, intense cognitive processing accelerates your mental maturation, meaning your brain accumulates emotional experience much faster than the average person does. You might have been the child who always understood exactly what the adults were worrying about, quietly absorbing their stress as your own. That early parentification or emotional hypervigilance forces you to grow up internally long before your chronological age ever catches up to your reality. So when you feel 70 at 30, it is because your nervous system has actually processed several decades worth of emotional data already. In psychology, researchers study the discrepancy between chronological age and subjective age, which is simply how old you actually feel on the inside. Studies published in medical journals like PMC show that subjective age is heavily influenced by stress, emotional load, and even biological factors. For instance, research clearly demonstrates that chronic stress, poor sleep, and emotional burnout can literally make participants feel significantly older within just days. When you are highly sensitive, the chronic stress of merely navigating a loud, demanding, and overstimulating world takes a real toll on your energy. Your brain is constantly scanning for emotional nuance, which is a beautiful gift, but it requires a massive amount of metabolic energy to sustain. This continuous cognitive load creates what feels like premature psychological aging, where your internal battery constantly operates on a low-power saving mode. Additionally, people who feel older often have a stronger awareness of mortality consequence and the deeper existential realities of life than their peers. While others are focused on immediate gratification, your mind naturally gravitates toward long-term meaning, safety, and the complex consequences of every single action. This difference in focus can make you feel completely alienated from peers who seem entirely consumed by current trends, drama, or superficial status. You are essentially operating on a completely different psychological timeline, prioritizing peace and stability over the chaotic experimentation typical of your age group. You can actually feel this psychological aging in your physical body, especially when you are forced into environments that demand high youthful energy. It feels like wearing a heavy lead coat in a room full of people who are sprinting around effortlessly in completely weightless clothing. Your sensory bandwidth gets maxed out quickly, and the physical exhaustion that follows a simple social event can last for several days. Imagine the sensation of an old vintage radio trying to process the intense overlapping frequencies of a modern high-speed digital broadcasting station. It is not that the radio is broken, it is simply designed for a different frequency, and the modern noise causes immediate static and overheating. When someone demands that you match their frantic pace, you might feel a sudden tightening in your chest, or a deep ache in your bones. Your body is physically requesting a slower, more deliberate rhythm, matching the older, more experienced internal state that your mind currently occupies. Even simple things like a lack of quality sleep can dramatically amplify this physical heaviness, instantly adding years to your subjective age. Research highlighted by The Guardian confirms that just a few nights of poor sleep can make people feel decades older than their actual birth date. This is why protecting your rest is not a luxury. It is a fundamental biological requirement for a highly sensitive, deeply wired nervous system. This brings us to the crucial shadow side of this wiring. What happens when this feeling of being an old soul starts working against you? The danger is that you might begin to prematurely close yourself off from new experiences, assuming you are too tired or too old for them. You might isolate yourself from people your own age, convincing yourself that they could never possibly understand your depth or your need for quiet. This can lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy where you accelerate your own isolation, missing out on genuine connections and the simple joys of life. You might also find yourself constantly taking on the role of the wise counselor for your friends, absorbing their problems while ignoring your own needs. Because you feel older and more responsible, you naturally attract people who need guidance, turning your friendships into entirely one-sided caretaking relationships. When you never allow yourself to be the one who needs help or who simply wants to play, your emotional exhaustion deepens exponentially. If you automatically reject every opportunity for spontaneous fun because it feels childish, you are allowing rigid seriousness to dictate your entire existence. True emotional maturity is not just about carrying the weight of the world, it is also knowing how and when to safely set it down. The goal is not to force yourself to act young and reckless, but to build enough flexibility to allow yourself moments of carefree joy. So how do you navigate a world that celebrates endless youth when your mind naturally craves the quiet stability of an older generation? It starts with cognitive restructuring. Stop judging yourself for not enjoying the things that people your age are supposedly expected to enjoy right now. Acknowledge that your subjective age is valid. If a quiet Friday night with a book feels deeply restorative, embrace it without a single ounce of guilt. You must also practice setting fierce boundaries around your energy, especially with people who constantly rely on you for emotional regulation and adult advice. Instead of automatically fixing their problems, you can gently step back and allow them to take responsibility for their own emotional growth. To counteract the physical heaviness, prioritize deep restorative sleep, which science shows is directly linked to lowering your subjective felt age. Give yourself permission to engage in low-stakes play activities that have absolutely no productive value other than bringing you simple, quiet pleasure. A simple shift from constantly carrying the world to intentionally resting changes everything for an exhausted, highly sensitive nervous system. When the pressure to perform at a frantic pace is removed, the defensive wall dissolves, and a surprising lightness can finally emerge within you. You do not need to keep up with anyone else's timeline. You just need a rhythm that allows your deeply wired mind to safely recharge. Maybe you are not boring, depressed, or missing out on the best years of your life by choosing a slower, quieter path. Maybe your nervous system simply places an incredibly high value on peace, reflection, and deep connection rather than constant stimulation and endless novelty. This intense drive for meaning is actually a profound strength. It makes you a careful observer, a compassionate friend, and a deeply grounded human. You are the kind of person who naturally understands the complexities of life, offering a rare, calming anchor to everyone lucky enough to know you. You can protect your quiet energy fiercely while still recognizing when your spirit genuinely needs to laugh, play, and experience the world. Both can be completely true. You can be an old soul with deep wisdom and still allow yourself to feel light, joyful, and completely free. If you recognize this feeling of being older than your age, or if you love someone who has this quiet depth, send this video to them. Let them know that you understand their need for a slower pace and that their deep, thoughtful presence is a beautiful gift to the world. Do you often feel a strange disconnect from people exactly your age? Let us know exactly how it feels in the comments below. We are building a community for people who are wired differently. If this felt like looking in a mirror,